Hello, everyone. Good evening. We'll wait for 1 minute and then we'll start with the class for the day. Okay. Today we are going to attempt one reading test. All right, so let's begin. Let's start with part one. Okay. In part one, as all of you know it already, so we have to find synonyms of these words that will fit in these clauses, these statements, right? First question is they're saying, in attempting to understand modern culture, we must begin by learning about the beliefs and habits of past civilizations. Right? Past civilization means civilizations, culture, people that existed earlier in the past, right? Which word is synonymous to that? What word can I use here? Earlier civilization. Earlier means previous civilization, old civilizations, civilizations from the past, right? So we have to look for the same word which means the same. So the word earlier would be synonymous to past here. Earlier civilization, old civilization, civilizations from the past. Next, a major step forward in the science of rocket design could enable humans to go deeper into space than ever before. The word enable here basically means allow, give you this opportunity, give you this chance, right? Any word that is synonymous to that exact synonym we have allow. It allow humans, it enable humans, right? It permits them, it gives them this opportunity, this chance, right? To go deeper into space. Next, there's a concern that if too much tree planting takes place, the amount of land available for farming will be reduced. So the word concern here basically means worry. We are afraid. There's this issue, there's this problem that is staring us in the face, right? Any word synonymous to that? The word fear. There's concern, there's a worry. When you have a concern, basically what happens? You're afraid of that thing, you're fearful of that thing. For example, you would be concerned about losing your money. You don't want to lose your money, right? You're concerned about that, about the frauds. So concern means fear, this worry that you have, right? There's a concern, there's a fear, there's an anxiety in your mind, right? Next, despite the clumsiness of the prose, clumsiness means something which is not easy to read or easy to understand, something which is very cluttered. So, despite means instead of, in spite of, that though there is this thing, for example, uh, despite the problems he was facing in his daily life, he always made sure he will go to gym. Despite his boss being rude to him, he decided he will work hard. Despite means instead of, no matter what is happening, you will still do that thing, right? It means notwithstanding. Notwithstanding means no matter what happens, right? The word notwithstanding, understand, it means no matter what happens, you are going to do it. That is going to happen. Notwithstanding the rain, I will go to office. Notwithstanding the problems I'm facing, I'll keep on striving towards my goal. Despite the problems, in spite of it, right? No matter. So all these words are same, no matter what happens, notwithstanding, right? This is the most probable synonym that will fit here. Okay? Right. Next one. Question number 5. History as an academic field, it operates in a way Not dissimilar. Not understand this, okay? This also you can use. Not dissimilar means something which is similar, right? That it is not very different. Not dissimilar means not very different to science in that it seeks. Seeks means you're looking for something. You're trying to get something. You're trying to achieve something, right? Trying to work towards something. Any word that is synonymous of that? Attempts, tries, seeks, right? He's seeking to become the manager. He seeks to be the best student in the class. Means he's trying, he's attempting. This is what his goal is, right? This is what he's striving for. Seek means to strive for something, to attempt for something, to try for something, right? To work towards something. Okay. A report has been published with the aim of allaying. Understand, this is very simple word if you know the meaning. Allaying means removing, basically, right? The word allaying means removing. That I want to allay your fears. Most often, this word, the word allaying, it is paired with the word fear, right? Allaying public concern means removing the doubts which people have in their mind, right? Any word which is synonymous to that? Yes. See, other words that could be used for this, right? You can use the word diminishing, right? Okay, removing public concern, right? Addressing public concern means you're trying to provide an answer to people's queries. You're trying to remove this fear from people's mind, right? To allay means to remove, to lessen, to reduce. Okay, it's lessening public concern, right? Other words will not fit in. If you put deducting public concern, that is grammatically wrong. See, the words could be grammatically similar. Please understand. For example, the word dwindling could be, you can say that it is synonymous to listening, but you will not say dwindling public concern. That is not grammatically correct here. You would never hear this, the public concern is dwindling. I'm trying to dwindle public concern. Government is trying to dwindle public concern. No. The word that you will hear is, if you are habitual of, for example, listening to news, the government is trying to allay public fears. Means remove public fears. Okay, so just because two words are synonymous, don't consider that could be the answer, because you have to see if it fits the sentence. Dropping public concern, that is absolutely rubbish. So lessening is what your answer is. Dwindling is synonymous to lessening, but it is grammatically awkward to write dwindling here. Okay, some words, they are synonyms, but they are not grammatically the correct fit. Okay, for example, if I look at this here, see here, despite the clumsiness, right? Regardless the clumsiness. Now, this is grammatically wrong. Though the word regardless and despite their synonyms, notwithstanding is synonymous, right? Irrespective is synonym. All these words, they are exact synonym of each other. But which one fits grammatically? Only the word notwithstanding. You fit other words, regardless the clumsiness. Regardless of, you have to put the preposition of here. Irrespective of, because there's no preposition of here, you cannot put these words because that will be grammatically wrong. Okay? So use common sense as well. Right? When you're writing these words, not only the word has to be synonym, but it also has to be grammatically correct. Okay? Basic things. Right? If you are aware of prepositions, adjective, adverbs, noun, pronouns, basic grammar, then you're good for this. Okay? Sentence structure. This is what we call sentence structure, something which is taught to us in 4th or 5th grade. Right? Irrespective of, right? We will not say irrespective the clumsiness. That is grammatically wrong, right? Okay, next one. So here, let me put it like this. What we have here is, let me share both this. Just give me a second. Let me set the screen a little so that we can read it good. Okay, perfect. Here it is. All righty. Let's see what we have here. Let's zoom this one out. All right. Okay. Now they're saying, let me zoom this in. You just have to focus on this part. Okay. Now we have to fit in the correct word from here, right? First, let's read this only. We don't need to read everything. We just need to read this part for 7th, right? In fact, when you practice it enough, you can just read this sentence and you can get your answer, but I'll not be I will not rush it so much. Okay. Otherwise, most of you will not understand. So, seventh, we have to pick our answer from this: documented, recognized, celebrated. Okay. Documented means something which is recorded. Recognized, I believe all of you know what recognize is: identifying something. Celebrating means celebrating something, basically. The recognition of prior certified learning is a process by which certificated learning from another institution is credited towards an HUC award. The prior certification must be an award given by a dash academic institution. Only word that fits here is recognized, right? You must have heard this. This is a recognized institution, isn't it? This is a recognized university. Recognized by whom? Recognized by the authorities, recognized by the government, right? Certified. Recognized means certified here. Okay. So seventh answer is what? B. Recognized, a recognized academic institution. Right? Recognized means certified. Government recognizes that it is valued. Okay. It has legal backing. That is the meaning of the word recognized. An example of how this work is if you have previously passed a module that had similar dash to one you could take. You previously passed a module that had similar dash to the one. So they're talking about a module which had similar what? Let's read. I believe all of you would be able to answer. Ingredient is what you put in food, not in your studies, right? Module will not have matter. You will not say, I'm reading module matter. You will always say, I'm reading the content of this book. I'm reading the content of this module. I'm reading the content of this course, right? So the word content will fit here. Ingredient is what you put in food, not obviously nothing related to studies here. Matter, you will not say, I'm reading the matter of this book, of this course. No, you will say, what is the content of this course? Means what is being taught in this course? What are the lessons? What are the chapters? Right? You may be awarded 20 recognition of prior learning credits for your HSC module and would be dash from the requirement to complete this module. Would be dash from the requirement. So what are they saying? If you understand this part, so they're saying if you have done some previous course and if you're join a new course, they will give you credits for the previous course, right? Most of you, when you move to Australia, so you must have got credits for previous learning, isn't it? If let's say your master's degree had 16 subjects, but you had done bachelor's and you studied some subjects, so they would have given you credits. So instead of learning, let's say 16 subjects, you would have learned 12 subjects. Means the previous subjects which you have learned, you do not need to read them again. So what is the meaning of that? Means you were exempt from those subjects. You were given an exemption. Exemption means you do not need to do this, right? Immune is what we use for diseases. I'm immune from the disease. I have taken the vaccination. You don't use the word immune for studies, right? Aside means keeping something away. They are not saying they will keep it away. Rather, they're saying is you will be given an exemption that you will not need to read this subject again. This is what they're talking about. You will be given 20 recognition points of your prior learning. Prior learning means something which you have learned previously. So you will be exempt from it, right? Aside means putting something away. Next, the maximum number of credits dash at another institution permissible for RPCL. The maximum number of credits what? Will you retrieve the credits? Retrieving means finding something. You are not going to find your credits, right? Next, will you gather the credits? No, you already have it. They're saying you have learned it. You will be what? What you will be doing? You will be acquiring it. Acquiring means getting it, right? So the credits that you have acquired, another word that could have been used here, if I'm not using the word acquired, is accumulated. I could have added this word. This would also be a perfect grammar fit here. The credits accumulated, the credits acquired, the credits earned. Another word that I could have used is earned, right? So these are the words that you could have used here. Okay. I'm trying to give as many synonyms as possible so that you can use them not only in your reading, but also in your writing and speaking so that we can have this spillover effect. Okay. Because in your listening also, tomorrow we will do listening. So you will see, I'll use some of these words there as well. In your writing also, we are going to use such words. In your speaking, definitely we are going to use it. Okay. Next is saying Please see the information dash to your award. Now, what are they saying? Information about, isn't it? They are talking about information which is about your course, information dash to your award, related to your award. Can I use the word related? Yes. But is there any word relative here? No. But what could be the synonym of the word relative here? Specific. Peculiar means something which is particular, right? One thing, one particular thing, one detailed fine thing, right? For example, um, if you want to say he's very peculiar about the car he drives, means he's very particular. He will not do any other thing. He will only pick that car. He's very peculiar, very particular, very adamant. Distinctive means something which is different, right? Distinctive. Okay. The two cars are distinctive, right? Distinctive means different, so that is not what your answer is. You could be confused between peculiar and specific here, but peculiar, as I've told you, peculiar has a connotation to itself when someone is very adamant on something. Someone is not ready to budge. Specific means they're saying, please see the information specific to your award, related to your award, right? Another word that could have been used here is the word related, right? Information related to your award, information specific to your award. Okay. All right. Next one. Here we have to choose the correct sentence, if you remember, right? Next session. So let's choose the correct sentences here. What sentence can fit in? Okay. First, let's read it carefully, understand it. So whenever you're attempting this part, so you will have to read the previous statement very carefully and the next statement, because the statement you're going to put here will have a relation with the previous one and the next one. So something which fits both, that is what you will choose from here. Okay. And whenever you're attempting these questions, please don't waste your time in reading these answers first. They will not make any sense to you. You will just be wasting your time. In reading, you already have less time, only 50 minutes. And reading academic, if you have not practiced it good, it can take a lot of time for you, right? If you're good at it, you will be able to solve it within 20, 25 minutes out of 50. If you're bad at it, if your vocabulary is not good, your reading speed is poor, you don't understand the text immediately, then you will struggle. Okay. So don't waste your time here. When they give you this part, when you come across this part, just start reading this and one by one try to find the answer. Let's do it, right? They're saying our predilection. Okay. Predilection, please understand the use of word predilection. Predilection means this confusion that you have about something, right? This dilemma. Okay. Our predilection for object ownership seems to be a uniquely human trait, right? For example, this idea that we have in our mind about object ownership. For example, we love to own cars, we love to own smartphones, right? So this is a uniquely human trait. This is uniquely human quality. Animals don't like collecting material things, right? If you have seen, you will never see an animal collecting anything material or sticking to anything material. Even if you give something to them, right? Let's say you went to a zoo and you gave something to a monkey or a chimpanzee, something which is very useful or anything, they will just throw it away after some time, even if they're playing with it for the first, right? So that is only a human trait, right? This being aficionado, I think, of materialistic things, that is a human trait. It is true that other primates means monkeys, chimpanzees, right, have been observed in the wild fashioning basic tools. Fashioning means creating. So they are creating basic tools out of sticks or stones. So they're saying if you see primates, if you see monkeys, if you see chimpanzees, you must have seen that they are playing with these wooden tools. They're making tools, right? Out of sticks or stones for cracking nuts or for prodding. Prodding means trying to find out. If you have ever seen an orangutan, you must have seen that orangutans, what they do is they use stick to get insects out of the hole of the tree and they eat them. So that is prodding, right? Prodding means to find out, to search. Okay. So nuts of prodding termite hills. So they are talking about primates, that monkeys, they use these tools, right? For their own use, basically, right? They are not attached to these. Human beings are attached. Human beings try to own objects. Dash, we have to fill in a sentence here. Next sentence after that is some animals, notably a number of different bird species, collect objects, but this type of collecting seems purely instinctual. Instinctual means based on their instincts. Like they don't have any goal to collect it, they just collect it. They just see something and they pick it up. Right? Now, what sentence fits in here? Let's read. Many children, absolutely wrong. How can the word children fit in here? They're talking about animals and birds and species, right? Asking participants, have they talked about any participants, any study, any research? Nothing, right? Getting a sense of the timing of this transition. Have they talked about any transition? Transition means change. Have they talked about any transition? No. So how can there be timing of this transition? The word this, right? So nothing about that. Okay. Next one. However, these artifacts are often discarded after they have served, right? We have our answer. They talked in the previous sentence that these primates, they're using these tools made of stick or stones to find food or to crack nuts. However, but these artifacts, these tools, these sticks and stones, they are discarded, they are thrown away once they have served their temporary function. Once they have used it to get food to crack nut, they will not keep it with them. They will just throw it away. Right? Answer is what? D. For question number 12, your first answer is what? D here. Let's remove everything else. Easy to find the answers, right? I believe there's nothing difficult here. Okay. Next one. Early evidence of this, right? So they're talking about, let's read the last line, sorry. In contrast, human produce, collect, contemplate. Contemplate means think, to ponder about something, right? Contemplate, exchange, value, and even adore. Adore means love, right? Like you fall in love with your phones, isn't it? For example, I have seen people, right? Like that what they do is when they buy their new iPhones or something, so they keep it on a pillow beside them. They don't even keep it on the table, right? It's like they adore it so much. Okay. So even adore objects for their own sake, right? So they're talking about humans, that humans love collecting objects, right? Early evidence of this is 70,000-year-old block of ochre engraved with crosses. So they think they found this block of ochre in which there was engraving of crosses found in the Western Cape of South Africa, most likely a piece of art or possibly a sacred object. Sacred is something which you revere. For example, something which is very religious for you will consider it sacred. Okay. So sacred object, right? Something which you worship. Okay. Something which is very important for you, right? It is clear that a considerable amount of time and effort must have gone into making it. So they're saying this block of ochre that they found, right? So this was like there were so many engravings and everything. It looked like a piece of art or something which was important, something which was sacred. And it is clear if you see that object that a lot of time and effort must have gone into making it. That whosoever made it, he or she must have put in a lot of time. Dash. After all, the hours devoted to creating them would mean less time available for activities vital for searching, such as foraging. Foraging means looking for food. The word foraging means looking for food and hunting. So they are saying in these two statements, they are saying in the previous statement, they're saying whosoever would have made it, they have invested a lot of time. Dash. After all, they're saying because of this time they are investing, so they would have less time to look for food and hunting. So now what would fit in here? First, again, A, children, nothing about children here. Participants, anything about a study, nothing about a study, right? Cannot be my answer. Next is getting a sense of the timing of this transition. Again, have they talked about any change that is happening? No, cannot be my answer. Next, that is, individuals choose to acquire things they believe reflect qualities they would likely to be associated with. Now, focus on the word that is. When do you use the word that is? You use the word that is when you're trying to give the meaning of something, isn't it? Is there anything to be explained in question number 13 here? They're just saying it is clear. They have already used the word clear, that it is very clear that whosoever made this, they must have invested a lot of time. So now read this statement. Is this statement a synonymous statement to this? Individuals choose to acquire things they believe reflect qualities. No, they do not talk about qualities because the word that is means you're giving meaning of something. But are they talking about qualities of something? No, they have just said that it would require a lot of time and effort. And the word time and effort are not synonymous to what is written here. So E also cannot be my answer. Right? The word that is give me a hint that whatsoever is written here, that should explain the previous statement. But if you match the previous statement here, this statement, it is clear with this statement, these two statements do not match. So cannot be my answer. Right? So what next? Let's do it. F. What is more? What is more means, okay, this is, we will use this in essays as well. This is a conjunctive adverb. What is more basically means additionally, moreover. So they're saying, moreover, simply choosing an object endows it with more worth. Are they talking about choosing an object or are they talking about making object? Previous statement. They were talking about making object, not choosing object. Right? So this also cannot be my answer. Right? Next one. From the point of view of an outsider, this may look like a silly overreaction. Are they talking about any kind of overreaction here? In leave overreaction, are they even talking about any kind of reaction? No. So cannot be my answer. Only thing I'm left with is H, and that has to be my answer. And now read it. This tells us great deal about how such items have been valued. Yes, yes, yes. They were talking about that this was sacred object, right? What is sacred object? Something which you value. They were talking about it. A lot of time and effort must have gone into making it. So this tells us what? Because of this deduction that we have, that a lot of time has been spent, that how highly means how important, how sacred, right? Such items must have been valued. Like these items on which a lot of time was spent and a lot of effort was made. So obviously these items would be valued very highly, isn't it? Today also, for example, if you go to buy a piece of jewelry, let's say you're going to buy some gold, right? Or you're going to buy some diamond. Why is gold and diamond so costly? Like gold is also a metal, iron is also a metal, silver is also metal. But what is so precious in gold? First, obviously the luster, but again, second thing is the amount of time that has been spent into carving it into a beautiful piece of jewelry, right? Same thing here. This tells us that the time and effort they're putting in, it tells us how such items would have been valued. Okay. So 13, this becomes my answer. Let's remove all these. So we have two answers till now. 12 is B and 13th is H. Next one. Needless to say, so they're saying there's no need to say, it is understandable. Needless to say basically means it is understandable. We live in a very different world today, that the present day world is very different. Manufacturing technologies have all but replaced, understand this phrase, okay? All but replaced basically means they have done everything except one. The word but here conveys exception, right? You have read all but one chapter, right? Basically means you have read everything except one. So manufacturing technologies have all but replaced the need for us to make our own things. So they're saying that they have done almost everything for us to make our own things, and we are set to live in a disposable age. Disposable means you use something, you discard it. You use something, you throw it. Disposable. Something which can be discarded. Nevertheless, but they're saying, despite this, right, we still retain a need for ownership. That though, yes, we are throwing things away, we are disposing things away, that we buy something, then we throw it away. For example, you will buy a new iPhone today, tomorrow, when the next generation will come, you will throw this away, you will buy the new one, right? So this is what happens. But still, they're saying, despite this culture, this trend of disposing of things, we still retain a need for ownership. Like we still like to own things, we still like to have things. And forge means create emotional attachments with objects that extend far beyond their functional use or market value. Same example, like iPhone basically is just a phone only, right? But people value it so much. Not all of you, I'm not saying all of you, but some of the people I've seen, especially teenagers, for example, right? Like they value it as if it is dear to their life, right? It is a phenomenon that appears early in development, and they're saying this thing, this emotional attachment that we develop with objects, it appears early in development, means from a very young age people get to have this sense. You must have seen kids, right? Like they get attached to a particular toy. They may have 1,000 toys, but they will only ask for one particular toy, right? And even in adults, this happens, right? Like I probably have so many things, right? But one out of those things would be my favorite, right? So that happens. We develop a sense of attachment. Okay. So appears in early in development. Dash, these precious items, no matter how tatty they become, means how old they become, how useless they become, are considered unique and irreplaceable. So now, previous sentences, they're talking about that we develop attachments, and this attachment happens from a young age. And they're saying no matter how old these objects become, we still have an attachment with them. I believe already we have the answer. Many children. They talk about early in development. Early in development means from a young age children. And now read this. Many children become inseparable from objects such as stuffed toys or blankets. Same example that I gave you. We already have this, right? It appears early in development, and then early in development means from a young age, and they are giving an example to corroborate this idea. So they're saying many children become inseparable from the objects such as stuffed toys or blankets. So 14th, A becomes my answer, right? Next one. Probably all of us own things to which we are sentimentally means emotionally attached. We develop feelings for something for one reason or another. So they're saying there could be one or the other reason. So become emotionally attached. However, but possession means these objects have another purpose. They can also serve as an expression of personality, taste, or status. For example, if let's say someone likes to wear black clothes, so this tells us something about their personality, right? Someone likes to, for example, go to fast food restaurants a lot, right? So this tells us about their taste, right? Status. Status means, for example, someone owns a luxurious car, right? It tells us about their status, that they are well off. Dash. Advertisers have been exploiting this for years. What advertisers are exploiting the word this year? We have to find here. Question number 15. Previous statement is that the objects we own, it tell us about personality, taste, or status of the person. And they're saying advertisers, people who present advertisements, they are exploiting this for years. What are they exploiting for years? Let's find it out. Option B, many participants. Again, have they talked about any participants, any study, any research? Absolutely not. Cannot be my answer, right? Next, getting a sense of the timing of this transition. Have they talked about any transition, any change happening? Absolutely not. This also cannot be my answer, right? Next, that is, individuals choose to acquire things they believe reflect. Yes, we have our answer. Individuals own things, they acquire things which reflect qualities they would like to associate with. We have read in the previous statement, the things people own, it tells us about their personality, their taste, their status. So individuals choose to buy things which reflect these qualities. For example, if I want to show off to people, I would probably buy expensive car. I would probably wear a lot of jewelry. I will probably wear designer clothes. Right? So individuals acquire things to reflect qualities they want to associate with. And they're saying this is something advertiser exploit. Right? The people who are launching these advertisements are designed to trick you into buying these objects. And people who are, I would say, weak minded, who are fools, they fall into this trap and they buy objects after watching advertisements for them. So this is what they're saying. Advertisers have been exploiting this, right? They're making use of this to target people, to sell them things. What they're making use of, this idea people have that to show off the quality, show off their personality, they need to own things. So they buy such kind of things which shows off such qualities, right? E becomes my answer. All right, now we are left with the fifth B and C and F and G. Okay, perfect. Next one. Professor of Marketing Russell W. Belk of York University in Canada calls this materialistic perspective the extended self. So, this materialistic perspective means this need for people to own things. So, this person, Russell, he calls it extended self. Extended self means the things that you own, it basically shows a part of your personality. It is your extended self. Self means your persona, your personality, who you are as a human. According to this theory, someone's possessions are a very important part of their sense of identity. For example, uh, I'm not saying all girls, but many girls, they have a tendency to buy expensive bags, right? Why? Because they feel that if they have expensive bags, they look good, they look beautiful, right? People will notice them, people will appreciate them, right? So they think these possessions are a very important part of the sense of identity. So people value them on the basis of what kind of things they own, right? This explains why some of us react to the loss of or damage to our belonging. So they're saying this thought process that we try to associate ourselves with our things, with our materialist objects, that's why we will react. It will explain why we react to the loss of or damage to our belonging as if it were a personal tragedy. For example, if someone loses their phone, so you must have seen the reaction of people, right? People feel as if they have lost part of the body, right? I have seen people more worried when they're losing their phone, when they have damaged their phone, than when they have met with an accident or they have, let's say, have they have suffered an injury themselves, right? So they're saying this explains this idea of extended self. It explains why people react like that, like why people behave crazy when they lose or damage some materialistic things. Dash, however, on a psychological level, it is perfectly rational. Now, let's read what could be the answer for this, right? So the previous statement was talking about why people react in such a bad manner when they lose some materialistic objects. And however, they're saying on a psychological level, it is perfectly rational. That if you think psychologically, yes, this seems rational, this seems fine. This does not seem out of the blue, right? Okay. Option B. Option B talks about asking participants, have they talked about any study being conducted? No. So I can still discard this, right? Cannot be my answer. Getting a sense of the timing of this transition. Again, have they talked about any transition, any change that is happening now? Next, if what is more, simply choosing an object endows it with more worth. So they're saying if you choose an object, it gives it, endows you in giving it more worth in our mind than an identical object we did not select. Have they talked about anything like we are selecting one object over the other? No. The only thing they were saying is that people react as if they have lost something very important, right? When there ever is any loss or damage to their materialistic things. So this also is not making any sense. They have not talked anything about selecting one object which is identical to other object, nothing, right? Next one, from the point of view of an outsider, this may look like a silly overreaction. Yes, yes. So they're saying if you are an outsider, if you watch someone who has lost his or her, let's say, phone, and they behave like a kid, they start searching here and there, they start shouting. So it seems like an overreaction, isn't it? It's just a stupid phone. You can buy another one, right? Why react like this? So they're saying from an outsider, it may look like a silly overreaction, right? How people react if you can see them, but they're saying on a psychological level, this is perfectly rational. That because you have lost your phone, so obviously you will be worried, isn't it? If someone loses, let's say, their phone in a store, so you would see, right? People go all crazy, right? But on a rational level, if you are that person, then you will not feel it awkward. You will feel that, yes, that is a fine reaction. This is how you would react, right? You have lost your phone. Maybe you had some important information, or maybe that object was very close to you, or maybe that was your first phone. So, on a rational level, on a psychological level, it seems fine. But from an outsider perspective, this reaction that people have when they lose or damage something, so it is a silly overreaction, right? You would think that why is he doing such kind of things? Why is he shouting, right? Gee. Okay. Now we're left with B, C, and F. So let's see what will be our answer for 17th. In my lab, we are investigating children's attitude towards ownership. We know that young children see ownership as limited to their own possessions, whereas adults respect the belongings of others. Now, what are they saying? So this person, person Russell, he's saying, in my lab, we are investigating, we are trying to find children's attitude towards ownership, like how children behave regarding their things. We know that young children see ownership as limited to their own possession. So young children, they will only They will only worry about things which they have, right? Which belong to them, their own possessions, right? For example, a child would not be worried about your belongings, right? A child would not be worried about the belongings of his or her parents. No. Child would only worry about his or her own toys, right? Whereas adults respect the belongings of other. Whereas you will respect the belongings of everyone. For example, if your wife loses her phone, so you'll be worried about that, right? If your parents lose their phone, right? Their keys, their jewelry, so you'll be worried. So adults, they respect this belonging that other people have, but children will not respect that. Children will throw away your phone, but they will probably not throw their own phone, right? We are trying to clarify exactly when in childhood the more mature understanding of ownership develops. So they're trying to find out that at what age we develop this respect for other people's possessions. Dash, understanding this matters. So they're saying we are trying to understand this because our deep-seated human need to own things is a crucial psychological process. So why we need to understand this? Because it is a crucial psychological process. Now, what is the line between two? One is they're trying to find that at what age in childhood we develop respect for other people's belongings, and they think this is important because this is a deep psychological process. Let's read. Option B, asking participants, yes, could be, but let's read the whole statement because they're talking about investigating, they're talking about a study that is being conducted. Asking participants to do this should have they asked participants to do anything here? They're saying to do this. Do what? They have not mentioned any task here. Have they mentioned any task that they gave to children? No. B cannot be my answer. Right? Next one. Getting a sense of the time. Yes, 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 I have my answer. Getting a sense of the timing of this transition. This is what they're trying to find. When in childhood. When means what? What is the word when associated with timing? When are you coming back home? When is the next class? So what are you asking? You're asking the time. When this happens. What transition? What change? This change where children start respecting other people's belonging and not just their own possessions. So my answer becomes what? My answer becomes C for this. Right? Okay. Next one. Next, same. We have to read the paragraph and we have to select what statements are related to this paragraph. Let's do that. Okay. First one, first paragraph. Let's read what they're saying here. Pablo Picasso, the influential 20th century artist, is widely quoted as having said that. So this person, he said, what? That good artists borrow, great artists steal. That those who are good artists, they take ideas from others and they work on those ideas, whereas great artists, they steal other people's work. Right? A strange statement. Whether or not Picasso was truly the first person to voice this idea. So they're saying we are not sure if Picasso was the first person to give this idea, right? But what cannot be denied, but what is sure cannot be denied means what is certain is that existing ideas feed into the creation of new ones. That we can definitely say that the ideas which someone is presenting today, that will inspire new ideas in the future. Shakespeare, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language, routinely stole plot lines. So, in his plays, you must have seen Shakespeare, right? Or you must have read it, right? So, he routinely stole plot lines. He stole the storylines, the plot lines, and even whole scenes from other writers. So, he would look at other people's writing and he would steal that work, right? The thematic and technical similarities that characterize art movements are due in large measure to deliberate imitation of seminal works of art. So they're saying that these thematic and technical similarities that you see in different artworks, it is because of large measure of means because of deliberate. Deliberate means intentional, that you are doing something knowingly, intentionally. Imitation means copy, that people are deliberately copying of seminal works of art. People are copying great works of art. So that's why you would see these similarities, regardless of the origins of the quote. So they're saying it doesn't matter who gave this quote, this quote of good artists borrow, great artists steal, I find the choice of words rather curious. So this person who has written this paragraph, he's saying, I find the choice of words very curious. Like he wants to know why these words were chosen to express this idea. Surely the idea of stealing is misplaced here. So the writer is saying, to say that people are stealing other people's work, this is not the correct word to use. Given that my use of your idea is in no way denies that the use of your idea, right? So he's saying that if I use your idea, it does not mean that you cannot use your own idea, right? For example, if let's say person A has one idea and person B takes that idea, this does not mean that the person A who has the idea, he cannot use it. He can still use it, but person B is taking that idea from A, right? And may even lead me to create new ideas that you will benefit from. And for example, I'm teaching you, right? This is my style of teaching. Let's say someone copies my style of teaching. Does it stops me from teaching like this? No. But they are saying that this other person who copies my style of teaching, maybe he will teach in some better manner where I can learn from. Right? This is what they're saying. Okay. Now let's read one by one. Which of these has A as the answer? Right? Our focus will be A. 18th, bringing a masterpiece from the past up to date. Have they talked about any particular masterpiece, piece of art, and making it up to date? Absolutely not. Right? Next one, 19th. Some people incorrectly believe that novelty is something to be aimed for when making art. Have they said anything about people correctly or incorrectly believing something? Have they talked about the opinion of the people here? Right? People incorrectly believe that novelty is something to be aimed. No. Besides, they're not talking about novelty. Novelty means creativity, uniqueness. Right? Next one, 20th. There are those who use the saying great artists steal to defend their dishonest use of another's work. Is this paragraph talking about that people use this saying to defend their dishonest use? Who was using this? Pablo Picasso. Have they said that Pablo Picasso was actually dishonestly using it? No. Right? 21st. The origin of the quote, good artists borrow, great artists steal, is uncertain. Yes, absolutely. 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 We have read it. Let me highlight it for you. They're saying the origin of the quote is uncertain, right? So they're saying it here. Uh, Regardless of the origins of the quote, means doesn't matter who is actually the propounder, who actually gave this quote, right? Again, whether or not Picasso was the first person to voice this idea is in some dispute. Means it is not sure if Picasso gave this statement, this idea. Again, regardless of the origins of quote, means doesn't matter where this quote originated from. So the origin of the quote is uncertain. Yes, it is. So my first answer is A here. Next, taking an idea from someone else can be legitimate creativity as long as the idea is transformed in some way. Are they talking about taking one idea and transforming it another way and it is a legitimate creative activity? Nothing about that. They have not said anything that you take one idea, you convert into another idea, and it is a legitimate creative activity. Right? Next, it is puzzling that the use of another's idea should be characterized as theft. Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. They're saying it here. The person says it. Read this statement, right? The writer of this paragraph, he says it. I find the choice of word rather curious. That to call someone a thief, that they're stealing your work, right? Surely the idea of stealing is misplaced. It is puzzling. Puzzling means confusing. It is making him curious. It is puzzling for him. What? That you will call it stealing. That if someone borrows your idea, you will call it stealing. That use of another's idea should be characterized as theft. Theft is what? Stealing someone's work. The word stealing is synonymous to theft. This also is talked in the paragraph, right? Next, the reworking of existing ideas is justifiable as long as the sources are familiar to audience. Nothing about audience, right? No mention of any kind of audience here. So my two answers are, let me keep this here. For A, my answers are 21 and 23. This is taken from A. Next, let's read B. Let's understand B. This is now, okay. Another thing I want to point out here is, see, we have read the statements. So whenever you're reading these statements, try to remember them so that when you're going to read paragraph B, you can immediately make the connection. Then you will not have to read all the statements again. You will save a lot of time, right? Let's read if we can identify by reading the paragraph B here, right? What statements would reflect B as the answer? Next, this saying is often on the lips of artists, thinkers, filmmakers, and even internet t-shirt designers. So this saying that great people steal other people's work, this is often discussed by artists, thinkers, filmmakers. Unfortunately, the second part of the quote is taken by some as a license to plagiarize. So this saying, people say this second part of the statement that great artists steal. So people use this as an excuse to plagiarize. Plagiarize means copy someone's work without naming them, right? You must have heard the word plagiarize. Most of you have done your bachelor's and master's degrees here in Australia. So in Australia, plagiarizing other people's work is a serious offense in academics, right? So the thing, it gives them a license, like an excuse to plagiarize, but that is a misinterpretation of its meaning. But they're saying if you do that, you are not able to understand what is the meaning of this statement. The saying is at its root means the fundamental meaning of this saying, great artists steal, about finding inspiration in the work of other. It is not stealing other people's work. The statement means you should get inspiration from other people's work, right? We already have the first answer, C, 20th. There are those who use the saying great artists steal to defend their dishonest use, right? Second part of the quote is taken by some as a license to plagiarize. Plagiarize means people are dishonestly using other people's work, and for that, what they are doing, they're using the second part of the quote. What is the second part of the quote? Great artist steal. First part is this, second part is this. So my first answer is what? There are those who use great artist steal means second part to plagiarize. Plagiarize means dishonest use of work. So I have my first answer. 20th answer is B. So that's how remembering the statements will help, right? Okay. Next one. Let's continue reading. And then using it as a starting point for original output. So they're saying what you should do is that you should actually find inspiration from other people's work and use it as a starting point for original output, means create novel things, create unique things out of other people's work. We read this. Remember 22? Taking idea from someone can be a legitimate creative activity. Creative means original output. 22nd also answer is B. Right? Paragraph says that you should get inspiration from other people's work, but you should create something new out of it, original out of it, creative out of it, unique, novel. And that's what they're saying. Taking an idea to transform into creative activity. Right? They're going to explain it further. Read it. Artists may recontextualize, remix, substitute, or own a mashup to create something new. Again, the same statement is repeated twice. If you did not get your answer from here, you can still get your create something new, creative activity. Right? Let's continue reading if we have any other answer. So, what makes the stealing? It's that instead of just imitating something which only serves to remind people of the superior original, you change it with your own compelling ideas. So they're saying rather than copying people's work blindly, you should try to create new. You should create your own ideas, creative ideas. Again, referring to this. When you have elevated someone's idea, elevated means improved upon someone's idea, right? An informed audience look at both works and say your explores a certain idea better. So people who are informed means intelligent people. Intelligent audience will look at your work and will say yours explores a certain idea better. Means that the work you are doing is better than the original work. V24. The reworking of existing ideas is justifiable as long as the sources are familiar. No. They're not talking about sources are familiar. They talked about audience. They talked about reworking the idea. But in this statement of audience, informed audience, they did not say that the sources are familiar, right? That the sources are known. Nothing about that, right? In a sense, you own that idea now and can therefore be said to have stolen it, right? So they're saying you now own the idea, right? And obviously, people who are going to accuse you, they will accuse you, they're saying. Any other statement that matches? Let's read. Bringing a masterpiece from the past up to date, nothing about bringing from past to the current. Some people incorrectly believe that novelty is something to be aimed for when making art. They're not saying that we should create art with novelty, nothing about that. This one we have already marked. Audience also. They talked about reworking ideas, talked about audience, but this part was missing from the paragraph here. Okay, so that's why B will not be the answer for this for 24th. Next. So we are now left with 18, 19 and 24. So our answer for C and D would be here. Okay. Let's see. Let's read 1890. Bring a masterpiece from past to up to date. Some incredible novelties aimed for when making art and working of ideas just well. Your source is familiar. Okay, let's see. You have probably heard a version of this saying, which has been said in slightly different ways by many great creatives, including T.S. Eliot, Pablo Picasso, and even the tech inventor Steve Jobs. So they're saying this statement that great people steal other people's ideas. So you have probably heard a version of this saying. You probably would have heard this, but in a different manner, right? In a slightly different way. These people have said it. Steve Jobs, Pablo Picasso, T.S. Eliot. It has almost reached the status of internet meme these days. So it has become a kind of meme, they're saying, right? To say this, it has become very commonplace, a common meme around the world, right? The problem is that original context of the quotes like these is often absent. So they're saying we don't know what is the original context of this quote. And that is crucial for understanding the meaning. But they're saying this is crucial for understanding the meaning, which is emphatically not about endorsing plagiarism. So they're saying through this statement, we should not endorse plagiarism. We should not try to copy other people's work, right? For me, the only ideas that are up for grabs are famous images or stories that are already in the public. So the writer is saying that for me, if I have to borrow ideas from somewhere, I would probably borrow from famous images, from stories that are already there in the public domain that people know about, and which to some extent we all have in our consciousness. And all of us probably know about them, right? Sometimes these retellings or thefts, if you like, allow authors from marginalized backgrounds to redress some of the outdated and offensive material found in classic literature. We have our first answer. We have our first answer. Remember? From the past up to date, right? Redress some of the outdated. Outdated means from the past, right? And redress means making something old new. Redress some of the outdated means something which is old, you're trying to make it new, you're trying to make it suit the present time. The authors from marginalized backgrounds redress some of the outdated material found in classic means old literature. They're trying to redress outdated means bringing a masterpiece from past up to date, right? From past up to date, redress outdated. Outdated means from past, redressing it means bringing it to the present. Okay. What is important is that artists dealing in this way wear this influences openly and do not try to hide anything. Okay, so first answer is C. Any other answer if we have two other options. Let's read if anything matches. 19 says some people incorrectly believe that novelty is something to be aimed for when making art. Again, they have not talked anything about novelty when making art. So this I believe would be paragraph D, not C here. Let's read 24 if this matches. The reworking of existing ideas is justifiable as long as the sources are familiar to the audience. Yes, yes, they're saying it here, right? They're saying it that we should borrow ideas which are already known. Only ideas that are up for grabs are already in the public domain. We already have in our consciousness. So the reworking of ideas is justifiable as long as the sources are familiar to the audience, sources are known to the public, already in public domain, familiar to audience, familiar to public. See? And last one is D, but we'll still read it. Okay. We have to be sure that D is 19th. Okay. Here it is. Let's read. Some people incorrectly believe, some people are wrong to believe that novelty is something to be aimed for when making art. That when you're making art, you should always create new art. So this is an incorrect belief. Let's read if paragraph says that. This saying has been echoed throughout history by many masters, proving its wisdom. What it tells us is that there's no such thing as original idea. There is no such thing as original idea, but this is a notion modern young artists resent. But they're saying this idea, notion means an idea, the thought. Modern artists resent this. They hate this thought. What thought? That no matter whatsoever you're creating, that should be unique. From them, the recipe for success would be to involve finding something that's never been done before. So they're saying they believe that we should do something which has not been done before. Perhaps this is understandable in an era where trends are endlessly revolving doors, the same music beat, fashion trend, fictional tropes. However, however means I've told you what this is used to contrast, to give the opposite. The practice artist does not mistake originality for success, but people who are experienced, they will not think that if you are creating original work, you will be successful. No, success is not equivalent to creating original work. Incorrect belief is what? That novelty is what you should try. No, they're saying practice artists do not believe this. They understand that all forms are art made to be consumed, and no one is interested in consuming something completely unrecognizable. So these artists, they know that if you create something which is very unique, people will not like it. This is a wrong belief that you should create novel art. No, they're saying people will not consume. No one is interested in what? In unrecognizable, something which is created for the first time. That is why no art should be made in a vacuum. In a vacuum means don't create something which is very different from others, which is very unique, right? Hints at what? 19. Some people incorrectly believe, yes, what they believe? That we should create unique art. Yes, they're saying this thought is incorrect. If you do that, your art will not be recognized, right? Don't create art in a vacuum. Don't create very new art. Okay? D becomes my answer. Let me stop the recording